Alright guys, it has been a bit, but I'm back, and today we're looking at my favorite 60% keyboard. Let's talk about it. Today we're looking at the Ajazz K620T, which was originally a Kickstarter, but it should be now up on their EPO Maker website. In the box you'll get the keyboard, as well as a cable, accent keycaps, a keycap puller, and a manual. Now this is a 60% Bluetooth keyboard which can be used wired or wirelessly, and it's made of plastic from both front and back, aside from the little rubber feet and bottom, two of which are lifted to give the keyboard an angle when you're typing. Now this keyboard is Bluetooth capable, so to take advantage of this, there is a slot for your tablet or your phone. And the defining feature of this keyboard is this little volume knob over here. The little mark is supposed to indicate where the volume is at, but it spins indefinitely, so it's kind of just there for aesthetics. Aside from that, you can also press down on the knob to activate the mute and unmuting controls. Off on the left side of the keyboard, we can find that we can use this keyboard with USB-C wired or with Bluetooth, with up to 3 devices. Now, what keyboard would be complete without RGB LEDs these days, in which this thing does have? Now, if you don't like it on white, you can also get this keyboard in black. Speaking of choices, you get the options of using linear or clicky switches. I got the clicky ones, unfortunately, due to some problems with the Kickstarter shippings and whatnot, which happened to a lot of people, but if you order off the main site, this shouldn't be a problem, though the linear switches are sold out as of this video. I also wouldn't pay any attention to any of the reviews here, because all the low ones, if you look closer, are all based on people who ordered from the Kickstarter and got their order wrong, or just didn't get the keyboard, and that's just a Kickstarter problem. This sort of issue usually stays in the crowdfunding phase and shouldn't be a problem for anyone buying from the main site right now. Now with that aside and back onto the keyboard, you also get 3 accent keycaps, which is a nice touch and adds a little bit of color to your keyboard. You can always easily swap out the keycaps later, as they are using Cherry MX stems. Though the keycaps this board does come with are actually pretty nice, as they are PBT double shot keycaps. Now with that being said, let's have a sound test. The sound could be better, so we're going to take it apart, starting with the knob, and we're going to remove it with a guitar pick or a spudger tool. Make sure to do this slowly, because you might snap it off, as it is made of plastic. The rest of the outer casing will need to be pried off with a guitar pick, as there are no screws holding it down, and honestly, this has been a very frustrating process. The build of the keyboard, while plastic, is very good and tight, which means it's a little hard to reach into those little plastic tabs, so it does take a little bit more effort than you'd think to break into. But once you've done it, you can remove the top casing, which reveals that the little part that holds your tablet or phone is also attached with little plastic tabs, which you can remove in case you want to like spray paint it to customize this board if you want to. To take apart the rest of the board, the metal top plate and PCB are held down by 2 screws, as well as a nut and a washer which hold down the module for the volume wheel. Now do be careful removing the PCB, because there is a ribbon cable connecting it to the daughter board, but once you got it off, we can have full access to our PCB, which is actually of a pretty decent quality, and at the bottom we can even find a little Bluetooth module that's soldered in. Anyway, here's all the 3 parts separated, with the top case, bottom case, as well as the main PCB and top plate. Over on the bottom case, we'll find the batteries, which actually plug into the daughter board, which can be removed with these 2 screws, in case you want to paint the bottom casing. Now as for the mods we're going to do today, I'm going to put some foam into the keyboard as well as lube the stabs, but to lube the stabs we are going to have to desolder some of the switches, as stabilizers, if you don't know, have bars which make them impossible to remove if the switches are still in the board. But once you got them removed, all I gotta do is take off the bar and dip that into some dielectric grease to get them lubed and put them back in. Something I should note about the stabs is that their design is a little bit different from other stabs, as the bottom is completely covered rather than being an entire hole. The stems are also of a different design, which don't need to be clipped, which honestly makes this design very easy to work with because there's less for me to do. That said, after lubing the stabs and putting them back in, and then soldering my switches back in, I'm going to put some foam in the board to help with the reverberations. I'm going to put a link in the description if you want it. Now when it comes to this board, you do have to make some space for the cable to go through, which honestly just means leaving a slit for the cable to go through. Now for the cable for the batteries, you don't have to worry too much about it, just make sure it fits under and plugs into the daughter board. Other than that, just make sure to puncture holes for those little mounting bits you see here for the board, plug the ribbon cable back into the PCB, get the nut and washer screwed back onto the board, as well as the 2 other screws on the top plate, making sure not to over tighten it, as while the top plate is made of metal, what you're screwing into is the plastic bottom case, and you can easily go from righty-tighty to righty-loosey by stripping the hole with over tightening. But anyway, after the screws, all you gotta do is snap on the top case, which will take a little bit of pressure and effort, and then all that's left is pushing on the volume wheel, as well as putting the keycaps back on, and you're pretty much good to go. And now with all the mods done, let's do a sound test to see how it sounds now. Alright, so after mods, I'm really happy with how the keyboard sounds now. The sound is definitely a little bit lighter, and there's no reverb, so I think the sound generally is just more crisp, if you know what I mean. When it comes to performance of the keyboard, it's a keyboard. There's not much I can tell you about it. It does well for basically everything. What really matters for this keyboard is its use cases, because it is a Bluetooth keyboard. I mean, sure, other Bluetooth keyboards can also do a lot of the same things, like having up to 3 different devices connect to it and switching to them really easily, but none of them really have a little slot here to hold your other devices, so you can be on your computer typing and then switch to your phone or your tablet that's docked here really quickly and just really easily. You don't have to have like a place to dock your phone or your tablet elsewhere on your table, because it's already on the keyboard. And this does make the keyboard a little bit bigger, but honestly it's not that bad of a sacrifice in terms of size, because it's already small as it is at 60%. And honestly, a big reason why I personally bought this keyboard, and I bet a lot of other people bought it for, is because it has a little volume knob, which is just really useful to have, especially when you're switching through devices and just controlling your volume. There's just something about having a volume knob on your keyboard that makes it just more useful or attractive as something you want to buy. Like, if you're in the keyboard community, if you've ever heard of the Satisfaction 75, that was like a really big thing, just because it was a 75% keyboard with a volume knob. Suddenly, some companies figured out that this volume knob was very desirable and started slapping it on it, like the GMMK Pro, which is coming out soon. Now, what sets this keyboard apart from all the other ones with volume knobs is the fact that it is, one, of course, Bluetooth capable and connects up to 3 devices, but it fully utilizes that ability by having not just like the volume knob, but a place to dock those extra devices. And if you're a type of person who likes using multiple devices and just wants one keyboard and you want to switch between them really easily, then this keyboard might be for you. Now, if you're someone who can't stand using 60%, then this is definitely, of course, not for you. 60% keyboards are, it's an acquired taste for some people, and some of you guys out there may not like it because you really need those arrow keys. Currently, the K620T retails for like 75 bucks on the EPO Maker website, and honestly, I do think it's worth the money. It's just very useful as a 60% board. And of all the 60% boards out there, I think this is the go-to for me. And if you want to buy it, I'm going to leave a link in the description, as well as a link to like the little foam I use, because everyone keeps asking about where to buy that foam. Anyway guys, that's pretty much all I got for today, so I hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe if you liked it, dislike if you hated it, and, you know, hit the notification bell just to know when I'm posting next, whenever that is. My schedule's just kind of all over the place. Anyway guys, this has been Technical, and I'll see you guys next time.